It was early morning in Serra do Mar, the dense fog swallowed the highway and my car's headlights barely illuminated the winding path. Alone, I drove home after a long work trip. Suddenly, a white figure appeared on the side of the road, waving frantically. I hesitated for a moment, considering whether I should stop or not. The solitude of the road and the late hour made me fearful, but the solitary figure, under the pale light of the moon, begged for help. I stopped the car and the passenger, a young woman with long black hair, dressed in white, climbed into the back seat. She thanked him profusely for the help and said she was going to a nearby town. His voice was soft and melancholic, his eyes emanated a deep sadness. We talked during the journey, and the woman said that she was visiting her mother's grave, who recently died in an accident in the same mountain range. The story moved me and the sadness in her voice was palpable. When we arrived in the city, she thanked us again and got out of the car. As I turned to pick up his luggage, I noticed the back seat was empty. The woman and her belongings simply disappeared. Confused and perplexed, I looked around, but there was no one on the dark street. The cold of the mountains invaded me and the feeling of being alone now was terrifying. The journey continued in silence, but the ghostly ride from Serra do Mar was never forgotten. The woman's mysterious presence and melancholy accompany me to this day, as a reminder of the fragility of life and the mysteries that inhabit the dark roads. Dejected by the disappearance of the ghostly hitchhiker, I continued driving along the highway. The fog from Serra do Mar slowly dissipated, revealing the sunrise painting the sky with vibrant colors. The contrast between the beauty of the dawn and the terror I felt just a few minutes ago left me even more disturbed. I decided to stop at a gas station to have a coffee and try to forget what happened. While talking to the gas station attendant, I mentioned the girl I picked up and her sad story. He looked at me curiously and asked the destination she had mentioned. When saying the name of the city, the gas station attendant looked astonished. "Little town? There is no town with that name near here. You must be mistaken." My blood ran cold. If the city didn't exist, where had I taken the woman? And who was she, anyway? Suddenly, the story about the accident in the mountains that she had told came to mind. I ran back to the car, overcome by a chill. He needed to go back to the place where the woman had disappeared. I drove at high speed, each curve reigniting fear in the pit of my stomach. Arriving at the point where I stopped for the ride, I jumped out of the car and looked at the shoulder of the road. There were fresh tire tracks in the dirt, indicating that I wasn't dreaming. I examined the place thoroughly, looking for any clues, but found nothing. Disappointed and terrified, I noticed a road sign partially covered by vegetation. I wiped the plate and my heart almost stopped. It said, "Little town, 30 kilometers." The city existed, but why had the gas station attendant lied? With no other option, I got back on the road and followed the sign. The secondary road that led to Cidade was narrow and abandoned. Potholes littered the asphalt and dense forest covered both sides, as if the road had been devoured by jungle. After kilometers of traveling, the road finally opened into a clearing. In the center, there was a rusty sign with the name Cidade, almost erased by time. Next door, a cemetery overgrown with weeds, with tombstones crooked and covered in moss. A chill ran down my spine. I was in a cursed place. I greased the reverse gear and got out of there as quickly as I could, without looking back. I never went back to Serra do Mar, and the ghostly ride became a traumatic memory that I carry with me. What was real and what was the result of my fear? That's a question I still can't answer to this day.